So this right here is a brand new Sonos Era 300. I've had it for about 2 weeks now, and my overall synopsis or my spark note is if you guys want a super high quality do-it-all speaker system all built into one, this could be the one for you. But let's get into my review on the Sonos Era 300 because this thing, honestly, for the size and price, it's kind of a game changer. Let's get into it. So let's quickly talk about the unboxing itself, because even the unboxing, the design of this unboxing was very well thought out. It's a lot of sustainability efforts going into this play, and then also just the way that you kind of interact and the way that you feel when you open this brand new product, because again, this Sonos Era 300 is a brand new product category for Sonos entirely. Sonos has always been known for the Sonos One back in their OG days, and that was probably the first Sonos speaker that I was ever introduced to. They also have their home theater setup with their Sonos Arc and all that good stuff. So this Sonos Era 300 is their foray into a brand new category, but can still be paired with a lot of their other auxiliary devices. So for this one, the unboxing experience, everything is made out of fully recyclable material. You even have this cool little latch that you have to unlatch made out of fully recyclable plastic. And then I remember when the leaks were coming out about this Sonos Era 300, it kind of looked like it could be like a pair of VR glasses or VR goggles, because when you look at it and you're not fully aware of what the size is, you can kind of look at this thing and be like, well, this looks a little bit different, a little bit strange. The silhouette is actually something that they haven't done before. Sonos is used to that very cylindrical shape with their Sonos One lineup. So this one is a brand new category in terms of the actual design, the silhouette, and you can see by the B-roll that I'm showing you that it actually looks a lot better in person than it did in all the leaks and the rumors and the pictures, because it's very, very sleek. I keep mentioning this design aspect and the silhouette because it's something very unique that fits into any real decor, because at the end of the day, you want to put this in a place where it's going to be the center of either your home entertainment system or the center of your office. So it's going to be visible to whoever walks in there, and you're going to be seeing it every single day. So having it not be an eyesore is a big deal to not only myself, but a lot of people buying this product. And then continue on with the hardware itself, you actually have a brand new way or a brand new UI and a brand new way to interact with this Era 300. The first thing that they did was they included this capacitive volume bar that you see on the top. It's just a long divot that goes along the top of it that you can actually scroll through and up and move down the volume. And again, it's all capacitive, so there's no moving parts, no moving buttons, but it is very reactive. And if you have a child around and it's at the level that they can actually interact with it, it actually sounds like drums whenever they mess with it. So it's kind of funny, but it is very reactive. It is very sensitive in a good way whenever you do want to up and down the volume. You also, of course, have your dedicated play, pause, and then backwards and forward buttons. Again, all capacitive. This one doesn't have any divots in there, but very easy to interact with. And then if you keep looking on the top, you see a little speech bubble. So that's just to activate and deactivate the voice assistant. I personally keep it deactivated just because I kind of control everything from my phone itself, but that is there for you. And then if you look at the rear of the device, the only other things that you have is you have your Bluetooth button to be able to pair with, which I'm going to touch on in a second. You also have your actual power input, which is just a power cable. It is proprietary, so don't lose that cable. You also have a kill switch for the microphone itself, so you can go to the back of it and actually flip that kill switch so no actual listening is being done by the Sonos Era 300. And then the last thing you have is a USB-C input, and Sonos has a couple of different accessories for this USB-C input. It's just really two of them. One of them is a USB-C to headphone jack, so 3.5mm if you do want to plug in directly, but they also make a USB-C to a dual output of an Ethernet cable or an Ethernet port, as well as that 3.5mm jack. So if you want to hardwire in, the only way to hardwire into the Sonos Era 300 is to buy that adapter, and I believe they start at $20 and then $40 for the two respective ones that I mentioned. So now let's talk about the sound and how they actually built this sound inside of the Sonos Era 300. So first off, you have 3 custom drivers built into this thing. So you have the 2 side-facing drivers, which go right and left, and then the one center one, which is responsible for most of the actual immersive sound coming directly to you. You also have 2 high-performance woofers to really kind of hit you with that bass, so whether you're listening to a bass-heavy song or you're listening to maybe an action scene in a war movie, you really feel the immersion because it does pack a punch. And yes, it is a little bit heavy and it's hefty, but it's not really so big that you imagine it to really take over a room. But this thing really packs a punch from a bass standpoint, and I absolutely love that because those are the types of songs that I listen to, and those are the types of movies that I watch, right? Very action-packed, kind of war-heavy, so you do really feel everything happening. And then you have the upward-firing tweeter to make sure that you are getting that full immersion, because this does support Dolby Atmos and spatial audio, meaning that if you do have the correct output of audio, and whatever you're watching or listening to supports that spatial audio, that is where this speaker really sets itself apart pretty much from the rest of the competition. So let's quickly talk about the setup for this Era 300 because it was extremely simple, and then the way you actually set it up is pretty unique compared to all the other different speakers and Bluetooth speakers that I've used in the past. So first off, make sure you do have the Sonos Era application, and I'll leave a link down in the description below, as well as a link to actually purchase the Era 300, because when you're watching this and when this releases, it should be available for order to the entire public. But once you plug in the Era 300 and you have the app downloaded, then immediately after you download the application will recognize the Sonos 300 or the Era 300, and it'll start going through the setup process. Now it's going to walk you through this optimization program. So very similar to if you have AirPods, when you actually test out the hearing and the noise cancellation of the AirPods, it's very similar to that process, but just instead of in your ears, it's all over the living room or wherever you actually place the Era 300. So the first thing I'm going to mention is that for iOS, they do provide something called TruePlay. So if you have an iOS device and you want to connect it through your iOS device and get that TruePlay technology and that TruePlay support, by all means go for it, because it's going to give you the most optimized sound for your acoustics and your surroundings. So TruePlay measures the unique acoustics of the room and adjusts the speaker's EQ according to the acoustics, the size, the walls, everything around the room. And basically what it does is you take your iPhone, you walk around for 3 minutes around everywhere that you think the Sonos Era 300 is going to be heard, and then it'll start to amplify and correct itself to really optimize the listening experience through that room. And then if you do have an Android phone or you want to do a quicker process through your iOS phone, there's something called Quick Tuning, which does relatively the same thing, but instead of using the microphones on your iPhone, it's going to use the microphones built into the Era 300. So technically it's not as accurate to use the Quick Tuning, and I would recommend doing the TruePlay if you have an iOS device, but you still get a lot of the actual benefit of doing the Quick Tune when using the second option. And then once it's set up, you're good to go. You can start listening to music, you can start watching TV, and you can do whatever you see fit with the Era 300. The Era 300 does support Dolby Atmos from the Amazon Music app, and then as of the release of the Era 300, so I believe March 28th, you will get support from Apple Music for spatial audio, which is a huge game changer. Now let's talk about how it actually sounds. And I know that showing you how it sounds over a video is one of the hardest things to kind of replicate and show you, because everybody's listening to this video in a different way, whether it's directly from your iPhone or out loud from an iPad or with your headphones in, so it's tough to kind of really show you exactly what's going on. But one good comparison to give you is, one good anecdote to let you know is, Sonos did have us go to the press event about 2.5 weeks ago just to test out and see what they want to show us from the Era 300. And when they showed us the Era 300, they put us in a small room that seemed to be very optimized for this experience. They definitely took some time to make sure everything was the correct size, the room was the right space, it had 4 walls instead of 7 or 8. They made sure that there was sound dampening equipment on the side, so it was a perfect listening experience when they showed us these songs, and they also showed us some video as well in a home theater setup. But then what I wanted to do was, in my mind, I was like, wow, okay, it does sound really good, but this is not what my living room is shaped like. My living room is a lot more open, it's more walls, it's a little bit taller of a ceiling, right? Everything is gonna have a lot of bounce off the walls and things like that. So what I wanted to do first was actually put it in my living room. I went through the optimization process with TruePlay and then started listening to music. And right away, I could tell that this thing was packing a punch. I was listening to hip hop music, to R&B music, to then country music, to then pop. Everything that you threw at it, it could handle. And then also on the application, it does have a custom EQ. So if you want to set up different personalized EQs for different types of music, by all means, you can do that. But then what I wanted to do was actually connect it to my TV, because my plan with the Era 300 was to make that my one and only speaker system to replace what I had before. So before, I had a Samsung soundbar with a subwoofer, and it still works. It still works plenty fine. I bought it about 3 years ago for, I believe, $800 back then, and it works fine. It was loud, the bass was decent, and I could actually adjust the bass of that actual Samsung speaker and the bass that it came with. But then what I did was I just turned on the Sonos, put it right underneath my 65-inch Samsung TV, and then I was blown away. I started watching Marvel movies, I started watching The Dark Knight, and this thing was so much louder, so much crispier. The audio just was a lot more high quality coming out of here, and it just made me feel like, wow, this is what I'm supposed to be listening to, or this is how I should be listening to these actual movies with this Sonos speaker, because with the Dolby Atmos support from Disney Plus and things like that, it just makes the sound quality that much better overall. So I was very impressed, especially comparing it to, yes, my Samsung speaker system was a little bit older, but it was $800 compared to $450 for the Era 300, which we'll talk about pricing in a second. So to wrap everything up, I am extremely impressed with the sound quality, with the build quality, with the actual design of the Sonos Era 300. There isn't really anything negative that I have to say about it, except that I do wish that it had an Ethernet port directly built in, because I would love to just wire it right into my router, which is right next to the Sonos 300, to make sure I don't have any dips in sound quality or any disconnections and things like that. Which I will say, I haven't had any disconnections or any issues by using the Era 300 via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So that's something to take into account, and I have been using it daily for 2.5, almost 3 weeks now at this point. And finally, let's talk about options and pricing for the Era 300. So from a price standpoint, it is $449, so $450, and that's why I didn't really compare it to the HomePod. The HomePod, a lot of people are gonna be like, hey, should I get a HomePod or should I get an Era 300? In my opinion, they're different products. They're in different product categories. The Era 300 blows the HomePod out of the water, but again, it's $200 more expensive, so it should be a lot better sounding. And then from a color and variation standpoint, you have the black colorway and the white colorway. I just prefer the white colorway because it fits in my aesthetic, it fits in my living room, and I love that I'm able to hang it right underneath my TV, so it's good to go. But that is going to do it for this video, everybody. Like you saw, the Era 300 is a great Bluetooth speaker and a great addition to Sonos product lineup. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a do-it-all type of home speaker, Bluetooth speaker, because it'll play music for you directly from your iPhone, from your iPad, from your computer. You can Bluetooth connect it to your Samsung TV, which is what I did. And again, my TV is 4 or 5 years old now at this point, and it had zero issues connecting with it. I did think that it would be a little bit of an issue because it was an older TV and not a perfect pair, but just Bluetooth connectivity and it works fine. And it'll work even better with, let's say, an Apple TV 4K using AirPlay 2. But that is going to do it for this video, everybody. If you did enjoy, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know that you made it to the end. And leave some comments down below. What do you guys think about getting a $450 speaker to run your entire home theater setup? For my living room, it fits perfectly and it gives you enough sound and enough punch to really make me feel immersed in whatever I'm watching, so I do recommend it. Now, if you have a gigantic house with a gigantic living room, maybe get a pair of them and pair it with the Sonos Arc. But overall, it's going to get the job done for a lot of people. But that's going to do it, everybody. If you guys do want to check it out, click on the link down in the description below so you guys can actually order yourself one and get one home. But until next time, I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here, everybody. Peace.